Right now, someone with your exact life is winning. Same 24 hours, same circumstances, same distractions. The difference is that they are not waiting, they are not scrolling, they are not telling themselves they will start when the timing is right. They are building. And while they are becoming the person you said you wanted to be, you are still negotiating with the same habits keeping you exactly where you are. This video is not about productivity hacks or morning routines. It is about the silent decision you make every single day, whether you belong to the 1% who own their time or the 99% who let it disappear. By the end of this, you will know exactly what separates those two groups, and more importantly, you will have no excuse left for which one you choose to be. Chapter 1. Time is not the problem, you are. Everyone complains about not having enough time. Not enough time to work out, not enough time to build the business, not enough time to read, learn, grow, or show up for the life they claim they want. But here is the truth that most people cannot sit with. You have the same 24 hours as every person who has ever built something extraordinary. Time is the great equalizer. Rich or poor, young or old, successful or struggling, everyone receives the same allotment. No exceptions. So if time is equal, the variable is not time. The variable is you, what you choose to do with the next hour, the next morning, the next week. That is the only real competition happening in your life, and most people are losing it, not because life is unfair, not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they have never truly decided that their time belongs to them and no one else. That decision is where the 1% begins. Chapter 2. What the 1% actually understand. The 1% are not superhuman. They do not have a discipline gene. They do not wake up every morning overflowing with motivation. What they have is a different relationship with time. They understand something most people never fully accept, that time is not renewable. Money lost can be made back, reputation can be rebuilt, but time spent is gone permanently. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people who has ever lived, was once asked what he values more than money. His answer was simple. He said, "Money has no utility to me. Time has utility to me. I can buy anything I want, but I can't buy time." That is not a throwaway line. That is the operating philosophy of someone who built an empire. And if the man with more money than almost anyone on earth says time is worth more, what does that say about the hours you are wasting every single day? Every hour handed over to distraction, doom scrolling, or the excuse of "I'll start tomorrow" becomes part of the story of your life, whether you intended it or not. The 1% feel this in their bones. They treat time like something irreplaceable because it is. And that awareness changes everything: which habits they protect, which distractions they refuse, which discomfort they are willing to walk through. Research on high performers consistently shows that the gap between elite achievers and everyone else is not talent. It is deliberate, focused effort over time, what psychologist Anders Ericsson called deliberate practice. The 1% do not just work more, they waste less. Chapter 3. Not wasting time is an act of self-respect. This is the part most people skip. Wasting time is not just inefficient, it is a statement about how much you value yourself. Every time you choose the scroll over the skill, every time you choose the comfort of doing nothing over the discomfort of building something, every time you say, "I'll get to it later," and later never comes, you are sending yourself a message. You are telling yourself that your future does not matter enough. You are training yourself to believe that your dreams are optional, negotiable, something to get to when everything else is handled. And your brain listens. It starts treating your ambitions the way you treat them, as things that can wait. That is how months disappear. That is how people reach the age of 40 or 50 carrying a quiet grief they cannot fully explain. The grief of potential that was real, that was theirs, and that was handed away in small, painless moments of avoidance. Not wasting time is not about being relentlessly productive. It is about respecting yourself enough to show up for the life you want, deciding that your goals are worth the cost of today's discomfort. Chapter 4. The concept of time ownership. Most people experience time as something that happens to them. The week flies by, the year somehow ends, life gets busy, things come up. Before they know it, another month is gone and they are in the exact same position they were in before. This is not a scheduling problem. It is an ownership problem. The 1% do not experience time passively. They own it, actively and intentionally. Like a resource they are responsible for managing, because they understand that if they do not control where their time goes, something or someone else will. Think about what Kobe Bryant said when he accepted the Icon Award at the ESPYs in 2016. Standing in front of the greatest athletes in the world, he did not talk about talent. He said, "We're not on this stage just because of talent or ability. We're up here because of 4 a.m. We're up here because we had a dream and let nothing stand in our way. So yes, your time does not protect itself. You have to protect it. Time ownership means deciding, before the day begins, what your hours are for. It means building a structure that reflects your actual priorities. It means treating your work hours with the same seriousness that a surgeon treats an operating room, no room for any interruptions or distractions. It means learning to say no to meaningless obligations and passive entertainment that leaves you feeling exhausted and empty at the end of every day. When you own your time, you stop being a passenger in your own life. Chapter 5. The Invisible Cost of Borrowed Comfort. Here is what no one tells you about wasted time. The cost is not just the hour you lost. The cost is the identity you are slowly building through that pattern. Every time you choose ease over effort, you are not just losing time. You are becoming the kind of person who chooses ease over effort, and that identity compounds quietly, invisibly, until it is simply who you are. The person who scrolls for an hour instead of working on their goals is not just behind by 1 hour, they are reinforcing the belief that they are someone who gives in, someone whose intentions and actions do not match. And the brutal truth of psychology is this: your brain builds your identity from your behavior, not your beliefs. You do not become disciplined by thinking disciplined thoughts. You become disciplined by making disciplined choices repeatedly until that is simply who you are. The inverse is equally true. You become someone who wastes time by wasting time repeatedly until that pattern is the baseline you operate from. The 1% understand this. That is why they protect their habits, their structure, and their time with almost unreasonable intensity. Chapter 6. The Choice. Sitting in front of you right now. Right now, you have a choice to make, not a complicated one, not one that requires a new plan or perfect conditions. Just this: how are you going to treat the next hour? The gap between the 1% and everyone else is not built in some dramatic moment of transformation. It is built in the quiet, ordinary moments where comfort is available and the harder thing feels optional. The focused, disciplined version of you is not waiting for a sign. That version is built one decision at a time, starting with how you respond right now. You do not need to overhaul your life today. You need to make one decision the old version of you would not make, then repeat it tomorrow. That is all the 1% did differently. They stopped waiting to become someone else first and started acting like that person now with what they had. You have the same time they do. The only question is what you do with it. Start now, not tomorrow, right now.